Hey everybody, I'm Rachel K. Collier, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I use Ableton Live as my #1 songwriting tool. Now I've been wanting to do this video for ages. I've got lots of performances and production based videos here on this channel, but not so many on songwriting, and this is actually a huge part of what I do. So let's get into it. I'm going to show you how I use Ableton to write my songs. So first things first, let's talk about the track I'm going to be demonstrating my songwriting techniques with. It's called You Can Pretend. It dropped this Thursday. I also played it live in front of 10,000 people on Wednesday at Sophia Gardens in Cardiff. Let's have a little listen to it and you guys can see what you're getting yourselves into. That's enough for now. You guys are going to hear more as we go along in this session. It's on Spotify and all other streaming platforms now, so if you like the sound of that, definitely go and check it out after you've watched this video. Okay, so let's wind it back now, guys, to the very first session of You Can Pretend, and also let's talk about how do I start when I'm writing a track. So when I grew up, I was very much focused on playing the keys. I was self-taught. I used to copy melodies from the TV, worked out the chords I could play with 2 fingers, and had a very good time experimenting on the keys and going forward the piano. That said, you know, when I went to college and things like that, I completely rinsed songwriting on the piano. I felt like I was very limited with my kind of melody and rhythmic ideas. I ended up playing the same old thing, the same old chords, and the same rhythms and melodies were coming out. And after a while, this became very uninspiring for me. So now, actually, I never write on the piano or in a traditional songwriting format anymore. I find that by using Ableton and throwing lots of sounds and creating a big palette, that it inspires totally different rhythms and melodies to anything that I would create when I'm playing the piano. So this is what leads me to the first thing I do when I am creating a song in Ableton Live. I like to start with something wacky. Some sound, sample, loop, anything that's kind of original and unique to me. I don't just like to load in the first preset from Serum that I find that sounds okay. I want to try and make a vibe, something that's going to inspire some crazy cool melodies, rhythmic melodies from myself. And I need to be able to inspire myself with the instrumental. So how I started You Can Pretend was I dragged in a full a cappella vocal from a completely different RKC track.
What you've got, what you've got, what you've got to give is so much better than a toxic drop of bliss.
And then I used Ableton Simpler to chop up that vocal and create some little vocal chops. Add some effects. So I actually made quite a few of these little chops. This little one here as well. So with these little vibey loops that I've created, they're not just there to create vibe, these are actually really important in the songwriting process. They are now helping me to make decisions that I'm going to make later on. Instead of me sitting here and trying out lots of chord sequences that I've used over and over again, I've now given myself some limitations because these are suggesting to me not only rhythms but also harmony. So now I'm ready for step 2, I'm going to move on to the groove. So once I've given myself a little bit of energy and something to bounce off, that's when I'm going to start to create my groove with Ableton Live. And there are quite a few ways you can do this. So the first way is the traditional Ableton Live way, and that is of course to load in a drum kit from the huge choice of drum kits Ableton Live Suite gives us. And then of course I can finger drum along. Or using the step sequencer built into Push, I can start to draw in a sequence. Okay, it was going a bit crazy then, but you guys get the message. Another way, if I'm feeling pretty lazy, is I might just drag in a sample from good old Splice. Different combinations. Now another method I've been using maybe for the last 18 months is a plugin called XO, which is super cool for creating instant drums and finding samples. So in this track I did use the built-in XO sequencer. It's really, really fun. You've got things like the swing here, you've got effects, and it automatically syncs within Ableton Live. So if I hit play now, and then when I settle on a groove, I can just go and grab that MIDI clip and drop it in. And just like then, I can duplicate this and jump into the clip and mod things just like you would any other MIDI clip in Ableton Live. So here we go and press it. So these are the 3 main ways I like to build a groove, using the Ableton Live Suite drum rack, dragging in samples, and using a little bit of XLN Audio's XO. So you guys can see it's a bit messy here in session view. I'm just throwing all my ideas out on the page, but I love this. I think it's really important for creative flow. I'm not getting hung up on the arrangement yet. I'm really just designing sounds and textures and making something that's going to really inspire me to sing on. So now let's talk about our harmony. This is one of the funnest parts of writing a track. Adding our synths and our bass lines and creating that foundation for the melody. So when I come to working on my harmony, it really depends on my mood, whether I'm going to start with the bass first or whether I'm going to play some chords. So what I'll usually do is just have a couple of synths plugged in, press play on here, and just basically have a little jam with myself. Now, because I've got some suggested pitch here in the vocal sample, there are only going to be a certain number of chords which will sound cool with it. So for example, that F sharp did not sound cool, the F sharp minor. So, but the A minor sounded cool. F sounds quite cool. Let's try them as chords, A minor. But the cool thing is, while I'm experimenting, I can actually record lots of these ideas and see in the end which ones are my favourite. So let's do that now. Let's experiment, let's lay down a couple of bass lines and see what feels good. So I've got one idea here. That's not bad actually. Let's try another 1, 2, 3, 4 and... So I can keep on going, playing around with all these different bassline combinations until I find one that feels really good for me. And the one, of course, that I settled on was this one. A down to C, up to B. So quite a funny chord combination actually. We've got A minor, C major, B minor, which is probably something I would never write if I was sitting here playing the keys like, let's write a song, let me try going to C major from A minor. I would never choose that. And then no, I probably would never go to B minor because that just sounds really weird. But with this little crazy vibe here and these drums, I've created now like a harmony sequence that is kind of cool and a bit different. Thank you, Samples and Session View, for giving me that bit of magic inspiration. And then obviously that's like kind of a mid-range sound. I can start to improvise some synths along with this. So it's just A minor, little inversion, C major. So I played pretty much exactly that with the Prophet. When it gets to this point, I'm like, you know what? Yes, I think I'm starting to feel this now. And I'm starting to think, oh, right, okay, it's time. I want to try and create some melodies. I want to try and sing over this. But I have to wait until I've done something very, very important. And that is created a B section. So whether that arrangement is just the synths by themselves, la 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 la, and then the B section could be, or it could be a whole new chord sequence or bass line altogether. Whatever those differences are in the sections, it's really important that I do give myself like an A and a B section before I pick up that microphone. Because otherwise, what I have found is I've created like a really cool verse, but then I've got nowhere to go for the chorus, and yeah, then it can be a bit tricky. So I always like to give myself enough to play with, just so I've got enough to improvise over to get an A and a B section. I hope that makes sense. So before I jump in and start showing you how I improvise my melodies, I just want to say I know I'm skimming over Ableton Live here very, very fast. I do have a whole course on how to produce a track with Ableton Live, so go and check that out if you are interested in learning from me how to use this software to create your music. Okay, let's get into it now. I'm going to tell you guys the next step that I like to do when I'm writing my songs, and that is to improvise melodies. So now what I like to do is I create a channel, spoil myself a little bit, put a little bit of processing on it, and I'm really not thinking about my vocal performance now, so yeah, don't judge me on that. I'm just thinking about what cool phrases can I get from my little groove that I've created. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to start singing along to my tune. I'm gonna sing anything that comes into my mind and hope for the best. And I'm gonna keep doing this for a while, you know? Oh, let's try something a little bit higher in my vocal range. And then I'll try lower in my vocal range. Let's try lower in my vocal range. Let's try lower in my vocal range. And then I also like to experiment with rhythms, so let's try something with faster rhythms. Let's try faster rhythms and see how they feel. Faster rhythms, does it feel good for me? Oh, maybe it feels good. And now let's try slow rhythms on the beat. Let's try slow rhythms. Try slow rhythms. Okay, I realise this must sound terrible right now, but what I'm trying to demonstrate to you guys is just like how I'll try lots of different, you know, things, lower in the range, higher in the range, rhythmical, and then really just listen back and, you know, lower in my vocal range. and see if there's anything cool in these takes.
I'm gonna say anything that comes into my mind.
So, moment of truth, guys. Here are the official, actual improvisations that I did do when I was writing the song. So, let's have a little play through some of these. So, I've got that one. What's this one? I mean, it's kind of embarrassing playing you these, but I hope when you go back and listen to the song, this is where the verse came from. Counting down the days, when will I feel myself again? And this part ended up being the middle 8. And then let's see what else we had. It's a faster rhythm. So that one didn't make it. Because that one's the same. That one didn't make it either, but these two did. So when I get to this stage where I'm like, cool, I've got like a definite A and B section here, and you know, this may not stay like this for the rest of the production, but this is enough now for me to say, yeah, you know what, I like this. I'm gonna actually try and write some lyrics based around these melodies. So the next part of my songwriting process is actually away from Ableton Live, and there's a couple of tricks I like to use which I'm going to share with you guys and hopefully will be helpful. And the first one, of course, is using Pinterest. Lots of kind of quotes and poems and things like that will come up, and all these kind of phrases you can use then to bounce off to write your words. You can pretend it's definitely a song about kind of just getting on with it, even though, you know, things feel really rough right now. It's kind of like tricking yourself that everything's okay. And by tricking yourself, actually, you will find that, oh, you know, you've kind of forgot what was actually happening and why you felt sad in the first place. So it's kind of what my lyrics for this song are about. They're up on the screen here. This is another website, which is amazing. A friend of mine called Stealth, who's another artist, showed me this a few years ago. And it's called Rhyme Brain Writer, and it's really cool because you can write a phrase, like write a phrase, and it will give you like rhyming words that go with it, and then also like suggestions of similar words. So when I've written my lyrics, guys, I'm feeling good about them, I will come into Ableton's arrangement view and use the comping in Live 11 to basically record a ton of vocal takes, pick my favorites, and then, you know, process them and go crazy. So you guys can see the project has gone from what you saw in session view to, I think, around 95 tracks of audio. So lots more textures here, adding toms, adding more percussion. You know, the synths, I will have added like a ton of synths, really. Everything in red here will have been added in the production arrangement stage. Bringing these basses. So fleshing out all of those parts from the original writing session, just in session view, going in on the transitions and creating a big, beautiful arrangement. A production like this can vary in time. Some productions like this can, you know, you guys saw me, watch me make a remix, a video from a couple of months ago. I did in 12 hours, but actually this song I did start in March 2020 and finish in March 2021. So I wasn't working on it for the whole time, but I kept sort of going away from it and coming back to it, and this ended up being quite a big production. So there we go, guys. That is how I use Ableton Live as a songwriting tool. I truly couldn't write the music I write without Ableton. I sound like a proper nerd, but I truly, truly mean it. Without session view, if this is taken away from me, I don't feel I've got that ability to experiment so freely and to create. So if you guys want to get your hands on the stems, the Ableton set, or even a little sample pack from this song, then head over to my Patreon right now. If you want to learn Ableton, then check out my course. Otherwise, I would love it if you go ahead and listen to You Can Pretend. It's out on all streaming platforms now, and I've also got a little music video dropping for it in a couple of weeks too, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Mwah.